It's mid-Friday afternoon. Alex calls you from one of her classes telling you that there's going to be a really awesome birthday party tonight at her apartment that one of her roommates is throwing. You've hung out with this roommate a few times with Alex and you get along well enough but aren't particularly close. You don't have work in the morning and have nothing else in particular to do tonight except work on your fucking project, you lazy bitch. You are feeling kind of run down, but you have been fatigued most of the time lately. You mentioned that you're feeling ill because you're not sure how else to explain those feelings to someone else and say that you aren't sure that you can make it tonight. There's a second of silence over your phone, but you can swear you can hear the sound of your partner's face fall. She tries to convince you anyway. You haven't seen her this week and she sounds pretty insistent that you come over. She even drops a few suggestively worded hints that you can stay over with them tonight after the party. What do you do? Well, if you get the fuck, shake off your funk and go have a good time with your girlfriend. That's a good thing. Say that you're really just not feeling well and can't make it. That's a valid option. But since nothing read so far leads me to conclude that the character is actually impaired in any way, I say that there is no excuse not to go. So we agree to go. You agree to go even though you're really not feeling social. You moody bitch. You know it's important to Alex and you'd really like to see her. Seeing her does make you feel better sometimes. And you hope that this is the case tonight, even if it does mean dealing with all the usual social anxiety that everybody else feels, but not a lot of people bitch about it. The time to leave rolls around and you grab your overnight bag. Alex's apartment is a short walk away and there are already people hanging out on the porch. You feel your chest tighten as you approach the building and try to still your nerves. You quickly find your partner chatting away with the birthday girl and Alex immediately lightens up when she sees you. I'm so happy you came. I wasn't sure if you were going to make it. I can't remember the last time somebody told me they were happy to see me basically. So if this doesn't fix your attitude, I don't know. A young man taps her on the shoulder and she turns back to you to apologize and let you know they have to do something for the party. Alex hands you a beer and plants a kiss on your cheek before going off to deal with whatever came up. As you look around, you don't see anyone else you recognize. Awkwardly standing in the same spot, unsure of what else to do. Put your bag in your Alex's room and avoid the crowd in there for a while. Cling to the back wall, sip your beer and wait for your girlfriend to return. Proceed to drink in earnest, hoping it makes you less uncomfortable. You're very depressed. You spend a large amount of time sleeping, hating yourself. You are not currently seeing a therapist. Okay, so I am not currently taking medication, so I will proceed to drink in earnest because drinking lowers your inhibition. And when you sober up, your inhibition comes back and you decide that you have been raped and not that you just fucked somebody when you were drunk. So let's proceed to drink in earnest, hoping somebody might get raped. After Alex walks away, you're not quite sure what to do with yourself. Normal. Scanning the party for familiar faces yields nothing, and you're not sure where your girlfriend or the birthday girl got off to. You look at the beer in your hand, you know you care a lot less about everything in general when tipsy, like everybody else on this God's green earth. But you know you should avoid getting drunk and possibly emotional. Why? Why? Are you a violent drunk? Hmm? Is that a answer? No, it's not an answer. You just fuck you. You quickly down the beer hoping that it will loosen you up a little. And it will, because that's what beer does. You down a few more as quickly as your stomach will let you handle the carbonation comfortably. And then you fart and go to take a piss and wait for it to take effect. By the time it does, Alex has already returned and is introducing you to people. However, all that drinking accomplished was making you even more tired and unfocused. And you stick to your girlfriend for the rest of the night, which is fine, staying fairly quiet in group conversations, which is also fine. Later that night, as the two of you are both tipsy and dozing off, Alex goes up to you and lightly slurs, "I'm really glad you turned up tonight. To be honest, I really didn't think you'd show. It's really cool you did, really." You know she meant it lovingly, but you're not quite sure how you feel about that. What do you mean you're not sure about that statement? "I'm really glad you turned up tonight. She's happy to see you. To be honest, I really didn't think you'd show, because you're a moody..." Actually, do we know the gender of the character? Fuck it. It's really cool you did. Really. So, what's the problem with this statement? You're not quite sure how you feel about that statement. You made your girlfriend happy and you're not sure if that was a good thing. Fuck you, be depressed. Just fuck you, really, fuck you. It's a little afternoon on a muggy Saturday. Your mother has come over for a surprise visit, claiming loudly that she doesn't see you enough, so she decided to invite herself over. As you converse, she walks around your place and you get the distinct impression that you're being inspected. Because you are! "So what's going on with you lately?" she asks abruptly. Taken somewhat aback by this left fielder, your mother, expressing an interest in you, is a left fielder. You tell her you're not sure what she means. Because not only are you a moody cunt, but you're stupid as well. She repeats the question because it's not a question that needs an explanation. It's not that she means something, she's just asking. Saying that you haven't seemed like yourself lately. She gestures to the dirty dishes piled in the sink, because that's what people do. They pile dirty dishes in the sink. That's normal. And notes the fact that you haven't called or visited in a while. Your reticence only seems to spur her on more. She presses you, asking if you're having problems at work or with Alex, and you're beginning to feel increasingly battered by her solid, well-meaning but overwhelming inquisition. Everybody gets annoyed when they're repeatedly asked if everything's okay. Are you sure? Are you sure everything's okay? How's this? How's that? You know, it's annoying, but overwhelming? Really? If your mother's questions are overwhelming to you, to the point that you call them an inquisition, which maybe you should have googled the fucking word inquisition before fucking using it in this sentence. I still see nothing about depression in this game. I realize that the text is as if first person analysis, you know, it's actually second person. Somebody is explaining to you what's happening to you. But the explanations of what's happening to the character are I don't know what to do with them. They're just pathetic. The character isn't depressed. The character is pathetic. And it's not that the reactions are pathetic, they're just normal things, but the analysis is sort of everything is like when you're as far as you know as far as I know, when you're actually depressed, everything is like toned down, and what's a good, it's like losing color. You feel small and weak and helpless. And one thing they say about depression is that depression actually blocks your ability to think of alternatives, which is why people end up at suicide when it gets really bad, because not being able to deal with shit is you know, is what drives them to suicide. Although many people think that suicide rates tied to depression are more a side effect of the antidepressant medication, so who knows? What they do know is that they can basically put you in a brain scanning machine and pretty much see depression. I hope the game goes through the part of seeking help and going to a doctor, and that at least that part of the game is accurately, you know, I hope they consulted somebody. But if there's no such section of the game, this is just depressing me. This is a sad, pathetic character that can't handle anything in his life, because not because of depression, but because it's just a pathetic, useless piece of shit that can't handle the standard things that, you know, everybody has to deal with. The game is shit thus far. Under her questions, you become increasingly uncomfortable. You want to be able to explain to her how you've been feeling. But the truth is, you're not really sure yourself. Yes, you're not. Nothing horrific has happened at work or with your significant other or friends or anything like that. But all the same, you can't deny that lately you've just felt drained and as though you're not really here. Okay. You wish you could tell your mother these things, but she hasn't been approachable about negative emotions in the past because she's mental. She is the kind of person who holds the opinion that the solution to any problem is to simply try harder and maintain a positive attitude. I would beg to differ. You can try harder while being pissed off. A stance that has reared its head in past conversations when you've begun to explore the subject with her. You know she's unlikely to be understanding. Trying to motivate you to deal with your shit is her not being understanding with your situation. When you're basically happy to, admit that nothing horrific has happened, this is some shit writing right there. Huh. Well, you wish you could tell your mother this thing, emotion. She's the kind of person who will learn harder and maintain a positive attitude, a stance that has reared its head in past conversations when you begin to explore the subject with her. You know she's unlikely to be understanding, and you feel the energy drain out of you when you imagine what would happen if you managed to blurt out everything you are feeling. What do you do? Let her know that you've been feeling down lately and that you appreciate her concern. Always a good idea. Try to be honest with her anyway. Change the subject. Oh, I'm sort of split between trying to be honest with her and change the subject. If you try to be honest with somebody on this subject, you're basically going to have more discussion on the subject, and digging into this shit could be negative, just because it's what they use the term echo chamber. You're always concentrating on this shit, and now you have somebody else with you to concentrate on this shit, and at one point you only have a concentration of this shit. So changing the subject may be a better idea. And being honest with your mother is a good idea always. So which one to go with? Try to be honest with her anyway, change the subject. Change the subject, try to be honest with her anyway. Are you okay? It's a question you've been finding yourself being asked a lot lately. And it's one that and it is one that has begun to make you instantly uncomfortable. It's one you would have to spill your guts to adequately describe. And always the drama queen. Which would be an almost impossible feat to perform at the moment. Even if you managed to, you'd have to fight through your self-loathing long enough. So at least the character is self-loathing. which means the character is self-aware. Long enough to keep talking despite feeling like everything you're saying amounts to simple belly aching, which it very much may well be. So there, depressed people, fuck you. If somehow you powered through that as well, you'd have to live with feeling truly exposed, and you figure anyone who would know of these things would be put off to you permanently. Are we still talking with our mother? Is that what the problem is? The mother. You know, they say that only a mother can do that type of damage. If you can't open up to your mother, no wonder you're depressed. Your mother was probably a worthless, evil bitch, you know? More importantly, despite your mother's best intentions, which is a questionable statement, because we're beginning to see a thread here about the mother, that the mother is sort of not good intentioned. She's quite likely the worst possible person to try and wade through all of this bullshit with. Your mother is the worst person to talk about how you're feeling. This is retarded. So the mother is the problem. The mother is the source of the anxiety. That's why you're depressed. You had a shitty mother. You evade the question by pretending you have received a text message because your mother is apparently stupid as well as evil. Once you pretend as though you're finished reading it, you change the subject back to one you know your mother is interested in. She takes the bait and the topic is successfully changed. That's quite proactive behavior for somebody who's depressed. Shouldn't you be, I don't know, crying in a corner, grabbing for something sharp to cut at the wrists or something? A few of onions lingers and your stress levels stay high until she leaves a bit later. You wonder if you should talk to someone about all of this. Someone who would be more sympathetic and not tell you to simply think positive. Like a therapist who you should currently be seeing. You know? You should be seeing a therapist. It's a lazy Sunday morning. You are idly clicking around online as your phone rings. Sam, a co-worker of yours that you're friendly with, so you're not friendly with all your co-workers. You're sort of an asshole with your other co-workers, but you're friendly with this guy. But you're watching him. You're waiting for him. He's gonna say something that you won't like. And he's gonna be on the shit list together with the other co-workers you have. You basically had a hard childhood because your mother was a bitch, and now you're hostile at work because you can't trust people, which inevitably leads to a work environment that is hostile against you, feeding your negative emotions. You brought this depression on yourself. Ask how you are and makes hurried small talk with you. You typically only ever talk to him on the phone when one of you needs a shift covered, so it's slightly awkward. You're waiting in anticipation for him to ask you to come. This game is putting me to sleep. For him to ask you to come in on short notice when he veers the conversation in a completely different direction. How do you feel about cats? He asks. Mine had kittens a few weeks ago, and I'm having an awfully hard time finding a home for the last one of the litter. You don't have any pets, right? It takes you a moment to process this new information, and you're caught off guard as he begins to earnestly try to sell you on the idea of taking the last kitten off his hands. Excuse me for the weird noises. It's not something that you had specifically considered before, and he seems fairly insistent. Okay, we haven't fucked the game already. You don't have any pets, right? It takes fairly insistent. She's a real sweetheart, really loves people, she's got all her shots already taken care of, and the vet said she's healthy as a horse. I can bring her over by your place tonight if you're interested. You look around your apartment and try to picture a cat in it as he continues to tell you about how cute she is. She's cute! You tell him that this is all kind of a sudden and that you don't have anything for the kitten set up here. Oh, don't worry about that. I can bring over a litter box and food and all that, since you'd really be helping me out of a fix. It's the least I could do. I just don't want to have to put her in a shelter or kill her with a shovel or feed her to my dog or throw her in front of my car. You can't help but feel like you're being guilt-tripped. You only feel for the cat, and you only feel that you're being guilt-tripped because you have a fucking conscience. It's not about being guilt-tripped. It's not a tactic that's employed against you. You feel guilt because you should feel guilt, because you can help and you're wondering if you should help. And that's what's making you feel guilty. You're not being guilt-tripped. Things like that, guilt trip, but you decide to give it some serious consideration. It does get awfully lonely around your apartment, and it might feel less empty with a cat around. However, since you've been feeling so down, it might not be a good idea to take on the responsibility of a cat, even if they are fairly low maintenance. What do? Well, if you're a cunt, you decline. You don't like cats? Okay. You're not in a good enough place to be taking in more responsibility right now. Become a cat owner. You could use the companionship, which is the correct answer. You accept the offer of the kitten. Oh my god. Okay, fuck it. You accept the offer of the kitten and hang up shortly after making arrangements for when your co-worker can drop her off tonight. After hanging up, you worry about... After hanging up, you worry about if you've suddenly taken on a responsibility that you can't handle, and hope you don't make a small animal suffer for it. You're not entirely sure what to expect, and you spend the rest of the afternoon researching cat care online and trying to think of a name. Which means you're excited. This is what excitement feels like. The evening rolls around and you hear a knock at your door, startling you out of reading Wikipedia entirely too hard. You take possession of a small, terrified black and white kitten in a carrier, along with everything you need to start taking care of her. You take her into your bedroom, close the door, and open the door to the carrier excitedly. She cowers in the back of it. Fuck you! A small cat? Fuck you. She cowers in the back of it, and you back off feeling slightly defeated. You remember what you researched on introducing a kitten to a new home and leaving her alone to go mess around on your computer. Hopefully checking over your shoulder every so often to see if she has come out. It's a small cat. It's a small fucking cat. It doesn't need space. It's not a grown animal. It needs to be picked up and cuddled. You don't leave a baby on the bed and wait for it to get comfortable. You make it comfortable by... The character is a piece of shit. Feeling slightly defeated, you remember what you researched on introducing a kitten to a new home. A small cat, a few weeks old. And leave her alone to go mess around on your computer, hopefully checking over your shoulder every so often to see if she has come out yet. She hides inside her cat, making sorrowful cat howls long enough for you to start worrying that she already doesn't like you. Because you're a dumb bitch. You should, if you think this is acceptable to do to a little baby kitten, you should be, what's a good word, restricted by law, not denied to have children. She hides inside her carrier periodically making sorrowful cat howls long enough for you to start worrying that she already doesn't like you. She shouldn't like you. But by the time you go to bed, she's curled up at the foot of it, eyeing you nervously before falling asleep. Because you showed no... Because you didn't interact with the cat. Over the next few days, you gain her trust. I've gained the trust of grown-up stray dogs on the street for like 3 minutes. You just act friendly with the animal. You gain her trust and she begins affectionately following you around, sleeping on you and hoping up on you anytime you sit down to do some work. This should happen in 5 minutes. Especially for a little cat. Especially for a little baby cat. Whoever wrote this should be... Whoever wrote this should never have pets. You don't deserve to have pets, you wretched piece of shit.